firstly, welcome to Talk Moko to Me. First episode, first special guest. If you don't mind, just quick introduction for those who may not know who you are.
Tēnā koutou katoa te whānau, ko Gordon Toi ahau, e noho ana e nei kei whakatū te tauihu o te waka a Maui. I'm an artist. I originally hail from Hokianga, Hakapau, Karakia in the far north. I am of Ngāpuhi descent, very proud Ngāpuhi, and I'm an artist. Tēnā koutou.
Nice. You missed out one thing.
What?
The most important role you play.
I am also a father.
Nice, nice. Okay, so we're going to have a little quick fire question sort of thing. So you have one answer, and you have to say the first thing that comes to mind. You don't have any time to think.
Oh,
okay?
Pressure.
It's easy. It should be easy. Okay?
Shoot.
If you had to choose moko, wood carving, or kohatu, what would you choose today, now?
Kohatu.
Tattoo machine or uhi?
Tattoo machine.
Moko with or without colour?
Without.
Favourite moko artist currently?
Tingi Tat.
That's not whānau. There's got to be someone else there.
Moko artist. Ani Karo.
Okay, nice. Favourite tattooist? Not to our...
Moko artist?
No, tattooist.
I'd have to say Hanky Panky. He's a Dutch tattooist.
Yeah.
And he was very instrumental in helping me follow my path with tattooing.
Nice. Shout out. Favourite league team?
Warriors. Hard.
Favourite rugby team?
All Blacks.
Favourite player? Sports player in any sport?
What's that fella's? Johnson.
Sean.
Sean.
Is he your favourite? Out of all the sports?
Out of all the sports?
Like in the world, like you can pick anyone.
Oh, okay. Ooh, that's hard. Because there's a few. Muhammad Ali.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's a good one.
And Bruce Lee.
Okay. Yeah, nice. And that's the end of that quickfire round.
Oh, well, that's
So House of Natives is kind of the collective that you have created. And there are a few of us that kind of come off this. But before House of Natives, there was another name. Can you give me the name and also a bit of a backstory on what that meant?
Oh, the name of my original business was He Tohu o te wā, which means the sign of the times. And when I first got started and I got to a point where I was going to create my own business, I was looking for a name and I couldn't think of anything at the time that was kind of relevant to the time, if you know what I mean. And one day I was driving in my car and I was following this painting van. You know, they paint houses and what have you, and commercial buildings and stuff. And the name of the company was called Sign of the Times. And I was like, Sign of the Times, man. And I'm talking like early 90s. So it was right at the beginning of the Renaissance, you know. And it was like, man, it really is like a sign of the times, you know. And so I wanted to whakamaori that ingoa. And so He Tohu o te wā was born from that. So that's how I got the name.
I like it. I think it was very appropriate of that time. This is from the bison. Is that what you call it? Yeah?
Treya.
Yeah. He asks, what's your proudest moment / biggest achievements in your tāmoko careers? Oh, that must be for both you and I.
You go first.
Well, I'm still pretty fresh. Still pretty early in my journey with moko. but I'm gonna have to say is opening up my own studio in New Lynn in Tāmaki Makaurau. So that's pretty cool. It was definitely in the works and in the plans, but I often find myself to be quite a small step taker, and the studio felt in my plan a little further down the track, but everything worked out, and I think that it's just going to be a great space for me to level up from where I was before, which was just a steady. It was moving. She was steady.
Well, for me, it kind of actually like I was taught carving when I was at high school. I started learning whakairo, and my kaiako back then was a guy by the name of Henare Mahana no Ngāti Hine, and he had moved down to Hillary College, and he had, like most of our whae and matua, they take care of all the ho-hos, and I was lucky enough to be a ho-ho at that time, and managed to get underneath his wing, and he introduced me to carving and things like that, and eventually I went on to to an apprenticeship in Rotorua at the Māori Arts and Crafts Institute, or Te Puhia as it's known now. And I remember years later, Kotiro came to me and she asked if I could tell her some stories about what it was like working with Henare. And I said, yeah, no, sure. And she said, well, actually I've been doing some research and I found an interview of him, and he mentions you and another guy. And I was like, oh man, I'd be keen to sort of hear that. So she played the interview to me, and in there he was asked by the interviewer, what are your proudest moments as a teacher? And this is a man that was, in my opinion, a tohunga, a real tohunga. He was an expert in many facets of kaupapa Māori. He could have picked anything to say that, it was his proudest moment. But the thing he picked was sending myself and another one of the bros, Hone Hau, down to the Māori Arts and Crafts Institute. And when I heard that, I was thinking, wow, that's amazing, because this guy could have said anything, and he mentioned that was his highlight. And I never really got it, I never really understood why it was so important to him. And recently I got the opportunity to go to the initiation or the inauguration of my son and my nephew entering into the same school. So I think in terms of my most proudest moments, I now understand that full circle of the boys going into the same wananga as I did. And secondly, my most proudest moment is, out of all my children, I had not thought that it would be my daughter who would pick up the take and step up and say, yep, this is what I want to do, and follow in my footsteps. So that is also up there in my first pick of highlights in my life.
Thank you to the Bison for the Pātai.
Mean Pātai.
The next Pātai we have here is, if you were a superhero, who would you pick, obviously of the superhero that are out there, and why would you want to be that superhero?
Yeah, superheroes, eh?
Yep.
I want to be Maui.
Well, the flip side of that is that I was going to say a villain, like within.
Oh, if I was going to be a villain?
Yeah.
Say Danny DeVito as the Penguin. I thought he was.
Okay, yeah.
I thought he was just cool looking as a character, as a villain.
Yeah. Yup. Got a question here from Lani Lloyd.
Oh, I know that fella.
So Lani asks, will you ever do Mataura / Kauai again? And then in brackets he was like, if you do, like, would they be for family / friends? If you didn't know, Dad has not been taking on the moko kanohi clients.
Because our artists, our young artists, like my daughter and many others, you know, their lines, their approach, their tikanga towards the kaupapa of moko is solid, and it will only increase. And some of us old warhalts, we need to sort of step aside and make way. Now, in saying that, to answer Lani's question, there will always be an exception to the rule. For me, that's always been the way I've operated, that there is always an exception to the rule. And if my daughter, or if my son, or, you know, one of my close family members wanted me personally to do their kanohi, of course I would step up and, you know, pull the guns out. And I would, you know, hone my needles, and I would ready myself to undergo that particular kaupapa. But
is that you've been told before by comments, whatnot, that you are a goat. G-O-A-T, a goat. Tell me the experience that you had.
I did a post like I always do, and then this guy, I'm assuming it was a guy, and he reckons, oh, you know, te mea, you know, you're a goat, you know, and then it had a picture of a goat, like a nanny goat, you know, and I thought, well, what the fuck is this, you know, like, who's this fella, you know? And then, you know, it concerned me straight away and agitated me, so I thought, fuck it, I'm going to text him back, you know, and I'm like, who the fuck do you think you are fucking calling me a fucking nanny goat, you know? And later, as I was kind of like contemplating on it during the day, I was kind of thought, oh, I don't know, man, like, maybe I got it wrong. And then, so I ended up texting Heeds, and I said to him, hey man, this guy just called me a goat, and you know, I didn't know what it meant, and I you know, I responded negatively towards that person, and he just started cracking up laughing, and I was like, well, what the hell does it mean, man? What is he trying to say? And he said, oh, goat means greatest of all time. And I...
Here's your formal apology to the bro.
Yeah, whoever that was, I'm sorry, man. Tuku te aroha kia koe awa.
And I remember you saying to me one time, like, why don't us, the generation now, just say what we want to say, rather than just picking these small little words. Since you've been here in Mapua, you've definitely deep dived a little bit more into the wananga of pūhuru. Would you like to sort of touch on maybe why you've decided to really kind of dedicate more of your time to that wananga, and then also what would you like to throw out there as a challenge to other artists when it comes to pūhuru?
I've always had an affinity to pūhuru. When Te Rangi Kaihoro started his tattoo apprenticeship back in the early 90s with Phil Mathias up on College Hill in Auckland, I said to him when he went in, I said, you know, bro, you know, we gotta get into the pūhuru, you know, and I'll be your first, and so hurry up and learn, basically. And one day, Laurie came back, and Phil had told him to start tattooing himself so that he can understand what, you know, his clients are going through, all that sort of stuff. And on the front of his leg, he had done a small patch of the pūhuru, a small section. And he had only just started, by the way. And I looked at it and I thought, oh my God, that's it. Do it. Tattoo me now. And so we did, you know, we began my puhoro. Back in those days we were doing them in sections. So your pai tuara, for example, or maybe a piece on the thigh, and then, you know, it was kind of like a jigsaw puzzle. We put it all together and eventually, you know, create the piece, the full bodysuit. But, you know, for me it was like never ever like how I saw it in my head. And how I saw it in my head, the vision that I had was, you know, like how the Samoans, our whanaungas over there in Samoa did the pea, where, you know, you enter into the space and you receive it over a number of days until it's complete. I started wanting to like teach myself to become proficient enough with a tattoo machine that I could condense the time factor down and get it to a shorter time. I did many trips overseas, in particular to Holland, and on the invitation of a good friend of mine, Hank Schiefmacher. What I needed at that time for me was skin. I wanted to experiment, and I slept it, I dreamt it, I visualized it, and I needed to upskill my tool bag. So by going overseas, I had just multiple people coming for work, and I could start honing my craft and making myself work faster, and observing how the clients were reacting with receiving the tattoos, doing huge pieces in one day to sort of test and feel out, you know, if we're heading in the right direction. Now when I'd come home and I'd get an opportunity to do a puhoro, I would implement all of that learning that I learnt on them into our own, and I would slowly start to condense the process of receiving moko. What I found when I was up in Auckland is that we were always very, very busy. We had multiple tauira that were coming in and out of our whare. I had an open door policy. When we were doing this type of mahi, it was noisy. You know, it was very, very noisy, and we were also going out to other people's marais and doing moko papa and all those types of things, and I just kept thinking to myself, it's too noisy, I can become more proficient if I can control the environment. I believe I can give whoever's lying on the table, I can guide them better, I can give them a better experience at receiving what they deserve. When we had the opportunity to move down to Te Tauihu, we specifically designed our whare to be set up so that I can have the guys come in. What I found from the very, very first person that I did down here, which was a good friend of mine, Stan Whata from Tarawa, he was the first to receive his puhuru down here. Right from the get-go, I knew that I was onto something. I think for a lot of our men who have experienced a lot of trauma, a lot of historical things happen to them over the years, being in providing a space like this allows them to be in a safe space and understand that whoever's in this space, they can trust. The coverage that we're doing now, the density of the gauges and the detailing of the work has just quadrupled in terms of what we can put in. So slowly we just keep, you know, cutting off the fat. I wouldn't say that we've got the correct way to doing it. It's still a work in progress. I know that, you know, and each time we do a puhoro, we learn a little bit more about how to make our waka move a little bit more smoother and quicker. There's kai tā and kai tautoko and kai whiwhi. The whole thing will run a lot smoother if we can control the environment. Now that's just me personally. For anyone else out there, they may do it another way, but for me personally, this is the way that I found that I can maximize the experience for the wananga, for the people who are involved in receiving. Each challenge for our kaitā is like the reo, defining te mita o te moko. So, you know, tribal styles, making sure that what you're doing is not a combination of a whole lot of things thrown together, which happens a lot, but specifically charged with your tribal style. Now, for example, there's a lot of intermarriages these days that go on. For me, because I'm from the north, as a kaitā, I don't care if you're from any other rohe. When you come here, I will take into account your kōrero, and I will interpret that in the tribal styles, primarily from the north. Wherever you are from, as a kaitā, I challenge you to stick to your own style, regardless of where they're from. And if people don't like what you do, then they have the choice these days. Back in the 90s, you had a handful of fellas to choose from. We all have our specific styles, and they are recorded in either our rāranga or our whakairo or in karakia or in other forms of waiata. There are little pieces to the puzzle that create our tribal styles. Some areas are more luckier than others. If you haven't, then go to the museums. You know, even if it's just a small panel there, you don't look at the big things, look for the small things, look for the small detailings that you as an artist can extract that and put that into your mahi that defines the piece of being from that particular area. Koina te wero, karawhiu.
Next question is, do you have a funny story with a client that you can recall?
I'm not going to mention any names.
No.
And so if you're, whoever I'm talking about, if you're hearing this,
if it resonates,
if it resonates with you, aroha mai. But we're doing this pūhuru one time, and we had a hui. Well, we had this particular one that actually Tings had carved some moko designs in, and this particular person, he was transfixed on it. It was in my studio. He would just like stare at that thing, you know. And every time we turned him over to change the position, he would be like, "Hey, where's my hui? Where's my hui?" You know, and he got really like panicky if we changed his position and he couldn't see the and he couldn't see the hui. So he got so transfixed with the hui, every time he would have a cup of tea break and stuff like that, he'd actually sit with it. and you know, we were all like, man, this guy's like really getting into that hui. There's a couple of times there where we played a trick on him and we were about to start the session and we hid the hui from him, and he would like, you know, he actually like would sit up off the table and like seriously like, where is the hui? Where's my hui? You know, and we'd all just be cracking up laughing because, you know, the fella wouldn't start unless
the journey couldn't continue without the hui. But I have to put a disclaimer out there for the amount of people that have told me, like, do we literally see butthole? Like, and I keep telling people, I'm like, well, we get in there, but at the same time, that where everyone is covered, where they need to be covered, we're protecting their what do you call it? Dignity.
Their decency.
Yeah. Like, you know, we're not saying buttholes.
No, and I don't want to fucking see a butthole to be fair. Like, I mean.
Okay, so the last question for our first episode will be. So you've been doing moko specifically for 30 plus years now. Within that time, that's a lot of time, but within that time, you would have had goals, you would have had things that you wanted to achieve in that time, which I believe you would have definitely ticked off within that time. Has to, plenty of time there. What would be on your list that you haven't ticked off yet, moko related, that you'd still like to achieve?
Oh, definitely. That's easy. That's an easy one for me. Is moko whao, puhi whao. That really intrigues me in terms of like creating, carved lines into the skin, actual carved lines. So
that's pretty much wraps up our first episode of Talk Moko to Me. Lots of good kōrero in there. I hope you guys take something away. I'm sure you guys will take something away from some of the kōrero shared from Dad today. This is the dog that's been snoring. This is Nala. If you guys have any whakaaro on any of our kōrero shared today, please leave a comment down below. Like and share this video if you'd like to support us. Support me in my new series. Thank you, Dad, for being my first guest here on Talk Moko with me. I'm excited to sort of see where this goes. Any last words?
No, thank you, Bubs, for thinking of me and inviting me to be your first guest, first manuhiri on your show.
Yeah.
Is that what we call it, a show?
Yeah, I've been calling it a series.
Series.
Yeah. Maybe when I get some big bucks, I'll make it a big show.
Yeah. Māori Television, give us some sponsorship. No, but just big shout outs to you for all the mahi that you're doing, and I love you heaps, you know that. And continue to do what you're doing, because your contribution is worthy.